No team in the NFL is perfect, which means there's always room for improvement. So in this video, we're gonna be taking a look at just one necessary move that each NFL team should at least try to make before next season. So first of all, let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, who should fire Zac Taylor. They have one of the best offenses in the NFL and yet always fall short due to defense and coaching. Taylor was a small part of the recent Bengals surge to success, but as of today, he's probably the main reason why this talented team is nowhere near a Super Bowl run. Bengals fans will tell you he needs to go. On to the Vikings, keeping Sam Darnold. I know not a lot of people agree with me here, but Darnold proved he has a lot of talent and he's still quite young. He will probably ask for a lot of money, but if the Vikings can afford it, I would 100% go for it instead of having to start all over again with JJ McCarthy. Up next for the Raiders, draft a top quarterback prospect. They could get either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, both of which would be a big improvement from what they have now. The Raiders need to get a fresh start, and getting a new franchise QB from the draft is baby step number one for that. On to Atlanta we go, have a fair quarterback competition. I know they gave Kirk Cousins that massive contract, and now he's benched. They took Michael Penix round 1 for a reason, so I'm sure they have high expectations for him, but still they could be leaning towards Cousins next season due to his contract situation. So my take here is let the guys fight for the position. Now for the Jets, landing Aaron Glenn as a new head coach. Overall, New York has tried to establish a defensive culture recently, even whilst pursuing Aaron Rodgers as well. Glenn would continue building that culture as he's done a great job in Detroit and a lot of teams would try to get him. On to the Rams, get a quarterback for the future. Look, Matthew Stafford is a great player, but he doesn't really have a lot of years left in him. If the Rams manage to get a guy to learn under Stafford, they could very well remain as playoff contenders even after he's gone. Moving on to Miami, cut Bradley Chubb. This would have been an insane decision to make in the past, but it's making a lot of sense as of right now. Releasing Chubb would save a lot of money in cap space, and it wouldn't really be a terrible loss since he hasn't been that amazing recently. Regardless, the Dolphins need that extra money badly. Now for the Patriots, sign T. Higgins, or at least someone with a similar skill set. He would pretty much become New England's number one wideout right away, which is always helpful. The Patriots are trying to develop a young quarterback in Drake May, so the least they can do is give him a physical wide receiver to help him out. For the Ravens, find a replacement for Justin Tucker. I know this is hard to say as he's one of the best kickers the NFL has ever seen, but recently he's been very bad to the point where he even cost them some games. I know his name gives him leverage, but I think Baltimore should also consider moving on to try and get someone more reliable. On to the Giants, get either Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. With the draft pick they have, they can for sure get one of these guys. I don't really know just yet who'd be a better fit for the system, but they literally went from Daniel Jones to Tommy DeVito this season, so it isn't like the situation can get any worse, can it? Now for the Titans, replace Will Levis. I truly don't know why they're giving him so many chances when all he does is have one explosive play and then 20 terrible ones. The Titans did bench him just yet, but they need to stick to that decision into 2025. For the Cowboys, draft Ashton Jeanty. I know, the Cowboys have thousands of problems and running back may not be the biggest, but it is the easier one to solve. If it were for me, I would say get rid of Jerry Jones, but that's not gonna happen at all. So we gotta stick with getting the superstar running back Jeanty come draft day, which is also a great move I think. On to the Cardinals, resign Budda Baker. He's been amongst the best safeties in the league for a while now, and I think this defense can only hold its ground thanks to him. There may be bigger needs for Arizona, but securing Baker on the long run could be a huge move that won't really cost them as much considering the potential downside of losing him altogether. For the Bears, signing Ben Johnson as head coach. It may be hard to get a coordinator from your arch nemesis to come over and be your head coach, but hey, you can always try. Johnson would be the perfect coach to help Caleb Williams take flight, so the Chicago Bears must do everything they can to try and land him. On to the Steelers, sign a top tier wideout alongside Pickens. Outside of this guy, there's talent but not enough for there to clearly be a number 2 receiver. Trading for Mike Williams could prove to be valuable, but I still think they need to sign a wideout in free agency or at least draft one to try and boost this offense, which has struggled even though it's much better than it was the past couple of years. Now for the Buccaneers, resign Chris Godwin. He was having a stellar start to his season before getting injured, so they must try and get him back. Godwin has the potential to be one of the best receivers in the NFL, and considering he hasn't really broken out and he's coming off an injury, Tampa may as well be able to get him for a cheaper amount than what was previously expected. On to the Jaguars, draft Travis Hunter, or at least try to. The Jaguars are in a very complicated situation, but at least they do not need a quarterback. Drafting the most recent Heisman winner could boost their defense right away and provide a solid foundation for the future that Jacksonville will try to build. Moving on with the Saints, pretty much embrace the tank. They need a new head coach and the roster isn't looking great even without considering their injuries. I'm not saying they should botch next season entirely, but rather accept the fact that it may take time to build a winning team, get a young QB to develop, and some young players overall to try and build for the future. For the Lions, I'm gonna say extend Kirby Joseph. He's been one of the best safeties in the entire league and a foundational piece for this defense. Detroit doesn't really have a lot of holes, so they should be able to put their focus into signing Joseph to an extension. Moving on, the Chiefs should resign Nick Bolton. Some people don't realize how big of an impact this guy has on Kansas City's defense. The Chiefs don't have a lot of problems, but if they want to stay competitive moving forward, resigning Nick Bolton will only help their cause. Now for the 49ers, pretty much get healthy. I don't really see a lot of things they can do outside of just focusing on getting 100% healthy for next season. This is a solid roster, but it is also one that seems to be always injured. So I think it's time to step back for 1 second and just focus to be completely healthy to hopefully make a run at the Super Bowl next season. Moving on to the Broncos, extending Nick Bonito. This guy is an absolute monster and he quickly became one of the best defensive players in the entire league. For me, I think it's just a matter of time before he gets a big paycheck, so the earlier the Broncos extend him, the cheaper they'll be able to get him. Now for the Browns, finally getting rid of Deshaun Watson. Trading for him was probably the worst decision in NFL history, and getting him a fully guaranteed contract was just clueless by the organization. But regardless, that doesn't mean they should stick with him. It's time to let that mistake go and try to heal from it, because giving him more playing time won't magically turn him back into the QB he once was. Then for the Commanders, I'll say draft all defense. This team has an incredible offense led by Jaden Daniels, but the defense does have a lot of holes. Getting mostly defensive players in the draft will rejuvenate this squad and hopefully set a solid foundation for the team's future. On to the Packers, restructure Jordan Love's contract. I know he won't be the happiest man on earth, but with that kind of contract, there's no way the Packers can actually build a Super Bowl winning team. If they manage to save just a small piece of that contract, they can sign some more playmakers to make a push. But if they don't, it's gonna be complicated. For the Chargers, draft a wide receiver. The receiving core is not really that great, so they could use a young superstar to try and give Ladd McConkey a top tier partner who isn't Quentin Johnston. Drafting a good wideout could quickly turn this receiving room into a very dangerous one, boosting this offense into a really good position. On to the Houston Texans, improving that O-line no matter the cost. CJ Stroud is a great quarterback and the Texans have some good wideouts, but all of that is no use if every single play ends on a sack. The Texans should look into the market and either sign or draft offensive linemen without hesitation whatsoever. For the Seahawks, getting rid of Tyler Lockett. He's had a great career, but I don't think the Seahawks can accommodate to him anymore. Jason and Metcalf seem to be more than enough, and Seattle could use some extra resources to boost some other areas that need their attention. Now for Bills, extending Greg Rousseau. He's been really good and low-key one of the best players in this Buffalo defensive squad. Signing him to an extension can only be beneficial for both parties, so I think the Bills should try and do precisely that before he improves even more. On to the Panthers, giving Bryce Young some extra help. I would say preferably at wide receiver, but at this point anything will do. Young has shown some flashes of potential, but if the Panthers want him to truly succeed, he needs someone to throw the ball to, doesn't he? Now for the Eagles, resigning Zach Bond. I would dare to say he's one of the most underrated players in the NFL, but he's for sure bound to get a contract. The Eagles must try and get him at a cheap price while they still can, because otherwise the guy is gone. And finally finally for the Colts, firing general manager Chris Ballard. He currently has a losing record since taking over in 2017 and just 2 playoff appearances. This team needs some good leadership, especially with young players being the face of the franchise such as Anthony Richardson. Firing Ballard may be a tough call, but it seems to be the right one as well. And so, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll guess I see you soon.